Hey guys, GothamGeekGirl here. Time for another review, and I am joined by my friend Matt from Overdue Rentals Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
Good, good. So we got to see this movie last week, thanks to Letterboxd, and we saw it in IMAX, which was
Yes.
a blast. Great time. Definitely recommend seeing it in IMAX. Also recommend trying not to watch the trailer beforehand, because for you, you actually said you didn't even watch the trailer.
I saw a very quick, I try not to watch any trailers. I saw a quick teaser at one point, which is when they first announced the movie, which
hmm
definitely paints it as a different movie than it is. And I would say don't even not watch the trailer. Try not to see any like because even in pictures I see them ruining it already.
hmm
And it's still good. It's still a good movie, even if you know, but it's better not knowing anything for
Yeah.
sure.
More of a surprise.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't like blown away shocked as if like I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. But I was pleasantly surprised when things started to immediately unfold.
Yeah, so we're talking about Companion, the 2025 film from WB Pictures. WWW. Drew Hancock, he's known for Companion, My Dead Ex, and Suburgatory. So this is his first feature-length film as writer and director. And I think he did a fantastic job. I really enjoy this movie. I had a blast. So the synopsis goes, a weekend getaway turns bloody and violent when a subservient android that's built for human companionship goes haywire. The movie is due to release January 31st, 2025. So let's
I
get
already
right
feel that
into it.
description just ruins it for everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah. But let's yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like it's not really like a spoiler per se because the trailer does kind of give it away,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but like you mentioned, like there was a teaser trailer a few months ago which revealed less, but people already had their theories about it. And now the trailer kind of confirms those theories. But I still feel like trying not to watch anything like you mentioned. And we'll get into it a little bit more further on, but tell me your thoughts when we saw this, man, because I had a blast.
I am in it's for people who don't know me, I'm very hard to please. For me to say I like something is even if I think it's just like mediocre in a way, it's like a big compliment. But I enjoyed myself so much with this film. I thought that the comedy stuff hit very well. It wasn't like just giggles for nothing or flat jokes that went nowhere. I do think, and again, we're not trying to ruin anything, and I won't, because there's a part of it that happens at the end, which I can't get over at this point. I don't want to ruin it for people, but there is a callback in essence to an earlier scene in the film before the shoe drops, we'll say. And the way that this final scene calls back to it, I think is absolutely brilliant. It's stuff that I think people overlook when they watch it. I think it's stuff that a lot of filmmakers overlook when making movies, don't do stuff like this. And so I appreciated kind of like this movie from like beginning to end, just feeling like they did everything right. And also the fact that they got their points across without being so hit you over the head with it. It was enough to be subtle, but also very obvious.
Yes. So as I mentioned, it's written directed by Drew Hancock, and then the movie is also from the producers of The Barbarian, which was another film that I really loved. So even them just being a part of this, like you're already like super intrigued to see this movie. I think it was clever. It was twisted. It's a thriller. It's psychological. It messes with your head. It has you questioning how you feel about androids and robots. And I described it as the perfect horror film to start the year off with Sophie Thatcher once again proving herself
Yeah.
to be a notable scream queen. So we know her from Yellowjackets. She's been in Hereditary, not Hereditary.
Heretic.
Um, what was it again?
Heretic.
Heretic, Heretic. But yeah, she's definitely a notable scream queen right now. I'm really liking everything she's done. Oh yeah, she was also in the Boogeyman. And then
Oh,
she's
that's
starring,
right.
yes, and she's
Yeah.
also starring alongside Jack Quaid, and then also Jack Quaid, who we know from The Boys, Lukas Gage, Smile 2, Dead Boy Detectives, Megan Suri, Never Have I Ever, It Lives Inside, Harvey Guillén from What We Do in the Shadows and Blue Beetle, and Rupert Friend from High Desert Asteroid City. It's a stacked cast. They're all great. I think one thing that this movie did phenomenal was make every single character an individual, fully fleshed out character, whether they were like funny or like bitchy or serious or romantic. Like I still feel like every character felt like a person. They actually felt like a real friend group with different personalities and fully fleshed out characters, and each character brought something different to the film. Like I thought Lukas Gage was like super like I don't know, he was like the cute heartthrob of the movie, and like he was like a good balance to the film, and his partner was Harvey, right?
Yeah.
Um, he's super funny. He made like the best jokes in the movie. He definitely brought like a great comedic like balance to the movie, which I think also made it have more of like a human element to it because it does have like rom-com moments, even though it's like a psychological thriller questioning life itself.
Yeah.
It did a great job balancing the humor. How did you kind of feel how they handled that and like the cast, the people chosen to play these roles?
Well, first of all, up until not now, I would say, but I keep forgetting about it until you just mentioned it. I didn't even realize that was Rupert Friend at all up until just, you see the credits or whatever it may be. But again, everybody does their part very well. But it's one of those things where this is where Harvey Guillén is such a talented actor because he's doing something that you've seen him do before in a lot of ways. But he turns so quickly on a dime to just show how different he can be in the moment. Like that little scene in the woods where they're kind of like getting back, like him and what's Lucas Patrick when the character Patrick, they're kind of getting back to the idea of like, ah, screw this, and then he hears the noise of Iris somewhere out there, and he just immediately turns into like, all right, let's get this done. He gets very serious, and I can't tell. Again, our screening had a Q&A after with Sophie Thatcher, and she kind of mentioned how Harvey improvised a lot, and she mentioned something specific, but I guarantee you that whole plural of Xanax had to be improvised by him. And I think that was the point where you're like, even though you're enjoying yourself so far, that's where you get really hooked into the more just pure comedy side of certain things. And I really enjoyed that. I think everybody did their part really well. Um, Even though I think there are certain characters that I glommed onto more than others, I'll say. I didn't
Mhm.
necessarily love everybody on the same level. Let's put it that way.
That makes sense. Because, yeah, I don't want to give anything away.
And I really want to talk about that one thing from the end really badly.
Yeah.
Because again,
Um,
I'm not saying other people don't get it or won't get it,
yeah.
but it's something that I think in the moment people are not realizing. Like there are so many things. And look, I will you can cut this out if you want. And this is not giving anything away because she literally in the begin like one of the first few lines of the movie is talking about killing somebody.
Hmm.
So I will say that that scene when that finally happens, all of the callbacks, all of the metaphors, all of the allegories, everything is really, really brilliant, and I don't want it to be missed by people. That's all I'm saying.
No, I completely agree. I think like not just like the satire, the messages like behind the film. I think it brings on a lot of topics, such as like relationship, kind of like I guess what's the word that I'm looking for? Like roles, like
Yeah, the
gender
norms.
roles
Yeah,
and roles in relationships, and not just straight couples, but also gay men and woman and male, and I guess even like on another level to say jealousy amongst women, but like comparison. There's a lot of like elements to that in this movie, humanity and roles that people play and relationships and gender and tropes. And then also abuse and misogyny is probably the biggest topic in this film.
yeah.
And I also don't really
Not
want
to laugh about it. Excuse me. I don't mean to laugh that that's a funny
to
subject. It's just the idea of what we're watching. Yeah,
Jack Quaid, Iris. They're I think they were a fantastic duo. They seamlessly played their respective roles, freakishly perfect. Like they were both perfectly cast. And then they really like touched on like so many power dynamics and relationships. And I described it as it's kind of like a pun, but like the movie is basically showcasing like how women are programmed to cater to problematic men, which is like the main focus of the film. Like I said, there's like a lot of manipulation and like incel behavior, mansplaining and gaslighting, but without, like I mentioned before, without it being too overly like heavy. They make a lot of jokes, and the
yeah.
dark humor is amazing in this movie. Like it's amazing.
There's also that, I mean, even though they do ultimately give everything away no matter what, like you know all of the ins and outs, there is still some ambiguity to parts of it too. Like, again, I'm not trying to give things away in any way whatsoever. There is still a question you can ask to yourself as to whatever plan was created, whether Iris being part of it was always the get was from there from the beginning, or it just happened to be that she was there and available because of how things started with her and Josh, and then they turned that into their plan. So there's a lot of ambiguity in there as well, which I
Mm.
like.
Yeah, they did really good with like the twist elements, I would say. Like it wasn't as like predictable as I could have imagined it to be. Like I think a lot of viewers are gonna be pretty like excited with a lot of things that are gonna happen. Because even the pacing, like the entire film was super exciting and fun. Like you're like, who do I vote for? What's going on? Like what do I? Oh, I feel bad. Oh, I feel good. Like it was just so much feeling in this.
Well, it's even those things where it's not even what you consider like a twist, but there are like little great, even the joke. And again, I apologize to everybody how like weird I'm speaking because I'm trying to speak in
Yeah.
code in a lot of ways. But like that joke at the end when the Tex asks the officer a question, and then you realize what just happened. It's like it's very funny, and it's not a twist, but it feels like a twist almost, you know?
And the special effects, how did you kind of feel about the cinematography, the special effects, the costuming?
Ooh, you know what? It's probably the thing I noticed the least. Not saying the movie looked bad in any way whatsoever, because of course it didn't. But I didn't even it didn't like it was almost like it was so natural, I guess, that it didn't even occur to me. Costuming wise, again, people know, but like when you don't know and then you realize the way Iris dresses, I think is a very interesting thing.
Hmm.
Which is why, again, I hope there are people who can go into this completely blind. Um, but beyond that, I was so kind of actually engrossed in the movie that I didn't even really think about it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
I think a little of both. Because I guess it leaves things more open, more open-ended.
Yeah, it gives you room to again like pick and gnaw at it and pull out these little things, you know. It's just again that first teaser, and I think for people who've seen it, they'll know what I'm talking about because it's basically just a dinner table kind of thing, we'll say. I don't like that there are people who think that a movie has to be exactly the way it's shown to them in trailers. I don't want to see what you show me. I want to be
Mhm.
surprised. And I think if you just saw that initial teaser and then you go into it seeing the movie only knowing that, perfect. Just perfect. So I'm glad that all of those things fell into place. Because that I think is a style that you expected because you're so used to what you're being shown in a lot of these movies, and then it kind of turns it on its head a lot.
Yeah, because even the original teaser, it felt very Pleasantville. Like that, like
Ooh,
kind of is that 1940s?
well,
19,
Pleasantville?
yeah.
Well, Pleasantville was 1996, right?
No, no,
Like you mean,
no.
oh,
When it takes
you mean the atmosphere
the
of, excuse me,
era that,
of the 40s?
yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I feel like that was like 40s,
Yeah, it
50s-ish.
was in 50s, 50-ish, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like the tone that I got from the original teaser and her original outfit. It was very like
I think we saw different teasers.
but kind of also what like she was describing in sense of like her costume looked very, I think they mentioned the 60s was the inspiration for her. Who was
Yeah.
the costume? So the cinematographer is Eli Bourne. The production designer is Scott Cuzio from Fear Street. The editors are Brett W. Bachman, the Full House of Usher, which is interesting, and Joth Ethier, Don't Move, Orphan, First Kill. And the costume designer is Vanessa Porter, the Toxic Avenger. Um, so yeah, that's so interesting.
It's finally going to get released now.
Yeah, you're a big fan of that, right?
Well, I'm just interested to see it. That's all. I mean, I love
Yeah.
naked and everything, so I want to see it. Yeah.
But yeah, the costumes were one thing that kind of like stood out to me. Sophie also mentioned this in the Q&A about the costume design, and I felt like her dress also kind of matched that like era of
Yeah.
like Pleasantville type and very like tropish, like woman, this is your role. You're at the supermarket, you're here to do your job, to cater to your man and to cook for him and to iron his clothes and to serve him and be home ready when he arrives from work. Like that's the vibes that I got from
Yeah.
their first introduction.
It's so strange for a movie that deals with the whole android thing. It doesn't really pull a lot of Stepford Wives kind of comparisons, but it's very easy and maybe to use that as the best comparison.
What inspiration do you think this kind of took from? I felt like it gave me vibes of not Altered Carbon. There was another film.
Altered Carbon, wow.
Yeah, I
I
love Altered
haven't thought about
Carbon.
that in a while.
There was
Um,
another sci-fi that it definitely gave me vibes of.
well, I'll say this. Maybe this is it. I don't know if this is what you agree with or not. And I know people are going to get angry at me for saying this because people love this movie so much, but I actually prefer this to Ex Machina.
That I can't agree with. I love this movie. I gave it 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but I don't know. Machina's like 10 out of a 10.
I think Ex Machina, for some, the reason I say that is because I think Ex Machina loses its own attempt at being metaphorical at certain
Mm,
points, you know, and where this one I think nails it. And that's the only reason I really say that.
that's an interesting point.
And they're not trying to say the same thing necessarily, but
Yeah.
there are comparisons to be made.
Yeah, it was definitely that Altered Carbon and what was the other one?
I'm trying to think. Besides the stuff for wives.
Damn,
Uh,
watch it come to me after this.
it always happens. It always happens. You'll be in the
Yeah,
middle,
I
you'll be sleeping, you'll wake up. I remember.
I'm gonna be like, "Wait." So we touched on costumes, casting. Anything else you want to mention about the cast?
No, I mean, again, it's going to be interesting because I know on our way out we were even pointing out the poster for Jack Quaid's Novocaine. You know, Jack's been around for a while, and besides the boys, you know, people remember him from smaller roles and things. And while he's been, you know, there, of course, he's got Scream stuff and a lot of other things. It's going to be interesting now that he's going to have the chance to bloom out a little bit more to see where he takes that. Because I think while he does a great job, and I'm not trying to say this as a negative in any way whatsoever, it's interesting because I can see the character in Companion almost being the extremes of Huey from The Boys
Hmm.
when he's both nice and completely lost in his own idiotic world. So I want to see where he branches out from here as well.
Yeah, this without like giving too much away. I think this showed a little bit more range for him
Oh,
than
sure,
being
yeah.
like the typical Huey nerd boy. Like I think this was a good role for him, and I'm super excited for the path that his career has been taking. I think he's been killing it.
Hopefully, 'cause I don't know how many people watching this have unfortunately ran across that Randy Quaid Twitter post the other day. Uh, so hopefully the rest of his family doesn't bring him down. That's all I'll say.
Oh, Westworld, duh.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yep.
That was
There
the
you go.
biggest influence I saw in this. I was like, fans of Westworld are absolutely gonna love this movie.
And I will say in a lot of ways, not to keep hammering these points away or something like that. Because whether you loved it or not, I think this does a better job at delivering certain messages than Barbie did as well. You know, like I know people are gonna go crazy when I say that, and they're gonna be like, "How dare you?" whatever like that. But I'm sorry, it's the truth. Like I say that like it's a
See that?
fact. I
I
don't
see
know.
that.
The way I
Um,
feel, I guess.
any negatives for you? I feel like I had more positives than negatives. I just had one small, like minor gripe, which I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but like I mean, the synopsis kind of says that something goes wrong when they're on a weekend getaway. And obviously, in situations like that, you may call the police. They don't ever come, which is, I mean,
Well,
pretty accurate to real life. But that was one thing that was weird to me in the movie that without giving anything away, they may have had a connection to the homeowner. It was still weird the timing that it took
that's the thing. The
for
place is
someone
supposed
to arrive.
that's the thing. I will actually argue the same point in a different way without trying to give it away, I guess, also. Because again, they do point out that that place is so goddamn remote that I actually think it takes them so long to get there. My issue is that when those paths cross a little bit, the way the police act is as if something he didn't know something wrong happened. he acts as if
Yes.
like it's just a random. That's where it bothered me more,
Yeah.
I think.
Because it was
Um,
like, didn't they get a call? I can't think of his names right now. Pat's boyfriend.
well, it was Harvey and Lucas.
Yeah, that they
They're
called.
the
They
ones who
were
called.
actually
Yeah.
on the phone with the police. They actually got through to them. So that, yeah, that was like one minor thing that I noticed. I was like, didn't they tell you where they were? Like no one's been there in 24 hours.
It's a weird it is a weird place to be, I guess. I will say this is not a negative or anything, but like, and I will not say what it is specifically. If you want, I can tell you after. Well, there's I guess a mid-credit scene in essence, and I don't think I was paying attention, unfortunately, because I didn't realize that they were also playing another very, very niche kind of joke there, and I completely missed it because I guess I wasn't paying attention enough. But they mentioned it in the Q&A, and then I realized like, oh, okay. I wish I was. I mean, I'll see it again eventually, and I'll look at it closer. But I was a little annoyed that I missed that personally.
Any thing else that we might have missed that you want to touch upon?
I don't think so. I think I've done the best I can without giving too many specifics. Um, Even though I'm very bad at that because I'm giving way too many specifics, I think. But hopefully people still go see it and go like, "Oh yeah, he didn't give it away too much," and I get lucky that I didn't ruin it for people.
Yeah, I'm trying not to give too much away.
What would
But
ultimately though, like, because again, it's early in the year. It's most probably the first movie most of all of us have seen that we actually like for the most part. And I'm not trying to say that there's just bad movies, but it really is the case right now.
yeah, this wasn't my first film of the year, but it was the
No, yeah.
first that I loved.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I really enjoyed this, but I don't think it's going to end up in like my year-end best does. I mean, who knows? We'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens. But I do want to make that point because as much as I gush over certain things when I like them, I don't think this is going to be like my. This is not an end-all, be-all film to me. It's just something that surprisingly was so enjoyable that I
Yeah,
can't help but say yes, please go see it. Thank you,
go
everybody.
see it. And I think IMAX was a fun platform for it to see everything kind of pan out on the big screen. I enjoyed it in IMAX. I think that was a fun idea for them.
Yeah, especially that big wide shot of that lake and all those trees and everything like that. It's nice to have that kind of thing on a big screen.
Yeah. And then when we get into like the robot elements, because the companion essentially it is an AI robot. We'll talk a little bit about artificial without getting into too much detail. But I guess in terms of like the programming for the robots, did you feel like this was like tropish? Do you think it brought anything new, or do you think it was kind of like what viewers may expect?
I don't think it was tropish. I mean, it's hard not to say that things aren't at this point in the game.
Mhm.
I think it's impossible to avoid saying that something could be, but I think that I think everything in this film, what we get is delicately handled enough where it doesn't feel like, oh God, I've seen this all before.
Yeah.
It's so great. But in the same breath, it's familiar enough where you don't feel like you're lost in any time whatsoever.
And I think it does a great job too of like, sadly, the parallels we are living right now in this apocalyptic landscape that's transcending upon us. But
I mean, it's a
because we
world
already
full of
have
incels at this point. I'm
robot,
sorry.
um, weird robots and misogynistic men, and that whole Westworld concept of controlling a being, is kind of the center focus of this film, and making the perfect companion, choosing their eye color, choosing their facial features, choosing their hair, like everything down to the language they speak, which was pretty freaky. The settings, I think, was a very good concept of the film that they were like, she spoke German and oh, she could speak Spanish. Oh, she could speak
Uh,
Chinese. Like, oh.
she
It's
sounded
so
pretty good on
freaky.
all of them too. But that's the thing, and that's again what I really enjoyed, especially about those comparisons between that early scene and that kind of not final but final
Hmm.
scene. Because I mean, I remember I leaned over to you at the end and mentioned something, but in the first scene that it's referencing, it brings into that whole point is like you've built your perfect companion, and yet you still have no just proper way of interacting with them. Just roll right over. Don't. It's not even. It's just like the go to sleep. It's like
Hmm.
it was even so much worse. And I'm like, it's not one of these things where like I'm trying to like prove that I'm a good guy kind of thing. But I'm just like I literally before again knowing what was happening, I'm like, you don't even try to cuddle. You just say, "Go. What's wrong with you, man?" And like that's before you know what's happening.
Yep.
And
That's how you speak to your spouse.
it's oh my God, it was so insane. And there is another, but there's again, without giving it away, the method of what happens at the end is also great because it's also an allegory, not an allegory, it's a call, it's a mention to the idea of plugging in a USB. And I just think that is insane. And I love it. And I want people to just watch it and go like, yes, whoa, good job. If that I still would have liked the movie if that ending like that didn't happen, but that quick little scene, that quick little final see you later, that sealed the coffin for me in saying that there is a possibility that I could put this very high at the end of my year list when it gets to it. We'll see.
Yeah, there was a
We
lot
got a
of,
lot of year
like
to
I
go.
said, like zany moments that had me super surprised, and I love the ending. I thought the entire pacing was great. I was entertained the whole time. I highly recommend watching this movie. Like we said, try to avoid the trailer. See it in IMAX. I think it's a blast. It's a great time. It's going to be in theaters January 31st. And make sure to check it out. Follow me at GothamGeekGirl.com and my YouTube. And Matt, tell them where they can find you.
Just head on to every podcast service you want, the ones you like. Look up Overdue Rentals. You find us there. We love hearing from people. Let us know what you think. Let us know what movies you think we should cover. We'll see you then. Overdue Rentals at gmail.com if you need to reach out to us.
And later days.